at the center of American Pentecostal Christianity. With Jimmy Swaggart as the patriarch, his son Donnie Swaggart rising as a fiery preacher, and Gabriel Swaggart emerging as the younger generation's voice, the family has held tremendous influence over millions of believers worldwide. But with such influence also comes controversy, rivalry, and whispers of a hidden struggle for power behind the pulpit. The latest storm surrounding the family has sparked an uncomfortable but unavoidable question. Did Gabriel Swaggart try to replace Donnie Swaggart? And even more shocking, was Gabriel's move to expose Donnie's bad habits less about spiritual truth and more about grabbing his pulpit? This question has divided church members, created online debates, and left many wondering whether the Swaggart pulpit, once viewed as sacred, has now become a battlefield for personal ambition. Donnie Swaggart, the senior voice of the pulpit. For decades, Donnie Swaggart has been a central figure at Family Worship Center. His preaching style is loud, fiery, and passionate. He carries the weight of being Jimmy Swaggart's only son and has often been presented as the natural heir to his father's legacy. In the eyes of many older members, Donnie has long been seen as the rightful continuation of the Swaggart pulpit. But Donnie's ministry has not been free from flaws. His personal struggles, his rumored temper, and certain habits that critics describe as unbecoming of a preacher have often overshadowed his sermons. While his defenders argue that everyone is human and makes mistakes, his critics believe these habits weaken his spiritual credibility. And this is where Gabriel enters the story. Gabriel Swaggart, the rising heir. Gabriel Swaggart, Donnie's son, has built a very different image. Younger, polished, and media-friendly, Gabriel has taken charge of Crossfire Youth Ministries and has also stepped into main church services. His style of preaching is calmer, more contemporary, and designed to attract a younger audience. To many observers, Gabriel is positioning himself as the future of the ministry. With his media presence, modern approach, and youthful charisma, he appeals to a new generation. But beneath the polished sermons and family smiles, there has always been quiet tension between Gabriel and Donnie. That tension exploded when Gabriel began publicly calling out what he described as bad habits within church leadership. Statements many interpreted as a thinly veiled attack on his own father. The shocking exposure. During one of his sermons, Gabriel made comments about preachers who lose their anointing because of hidden habits. He spoke of leaders who preach holiness on Sunday but live differently on Monday. While he never named Donnie directly, church members and longtime viewers instantly connected the dots. The message felt less like a general warning and more like a public rebuke of Donnie's private struggles. The reaction was immediate. Some members praised Gabriel for his boldness, calling him the voice of truth who refused to stay silent about hypocrisy. Others, however, were deeply disturbed, accusing Gabriel of betraying his own family to elevate himself. And so the whispers began. Was Gabriel truly exposing sin for the sake of holiness, or was he quietly paving the way to replace Donnie as the pulpit leader? A question of motive. When someone exposes wrongdoing, the motive matters as much as the message. If Gabriel was motivated by concern for spiritual purity, his words could be seen as courageous. But if his motive was ambition, securing the pulpit for himself, then his actions take on a darker meaning. This is why the congregation is split. Donnie's supporters argue that Gabriel is power-hungry, that he used his father's mistakes as leverage to push him aside. Meanwhile, Gabriel's supporters insist he is simply ensuring that the pulpit remains holy and untainted. But either way, the fact remains, Gabriel's exposure has dramatically shifted the balance of power inside the church. The hidden battle for the pulpit. The Swaggart pulpit has never been a small matter. It represents not only spiritual leadership, but also influence, authority, and a global platform. Whoever stands behind that pulpit inherits not only Jimmy Swaggart's legacy, but also the loyalty of millions of viewers who tune in to Sun Life Broadcasting Network, SBN. For years, many assumed Donnie would inherit his father's mantle directly, but Gabriel's rise has disrupted that assumption. Younger, tech-savvy, and capable of connecting with modern audiences, Gabriel has made himself an undeniable contender. And by exposing Donnie's weaknesses, Gabriel may have taken the boldest and most dangerous step yet in this unspoken rivalry. Public reaction. The internet has become the stage for this family drama. Social media platforms, YouTube channels, and Christian forums are filled with debates. Gabriel is just jealous of Donnie. He wants his father's pulpit, and he'll do anything to get it. No, Gabriel is right. Donnie's bad habits have been ignored too long. Someone needed to say it. This is not about holiness. This is about power. The family is divided, and the church will suffer. These voices reflect the turmoil inside the church. For every member who applauds Gabriel, another stands by Donnie. The family name, once a symbol of unity, now feels like the center of a painful split. A legacy. Jimmy Swaggart built the ministry, preaching, music, and television outreach. His son Donnie carried that torch despite controversies and personal flaws. Now Gabriel is stepping forward, but instead of unity, the world sees division. Is at risk. Instead of focusing on spreading the gospel, the ministry is consumed by speculation. Who will control the pulpit? Is Gabriel really exposing sin, or just clearing the stage for himself? When Gabriel began speaking against hidden sins in leadership, those who knew Donnie well immediately noticed the shift in his demeanor. During the following weeks, Donnie's sermons carried a heavier tone. His usually fiery delivery seemed weighed down by unspoken emotion. He never mentioned Gabriel directly, but the tension was visible to everyone who watched both men preach from the same pulpit. Donnie, known for his boldness, suddenly seemed cautious. Some interpreted his silence as guilt. Perhaps Gabriel's words had struck too close to the truth. Others saw it as restraint, a father unwilling to publicly attack his son despite being wounded by him. Behind closed doors, however, sources close to the family suggest heated discussions took place. Donnie felt betrayed, one insider claimed. He believed that whatever his flaws were, they should have been handled in private, not aired to the world. The image of a father quietly enduring public exposure at the hands of his son quickly became a point of sympathy for Donnie's supporters. Many felt Gabriel had crossed a line that no family member should ever cross. Was it strategy? Observers couldn't help but notice the timing of Gabriel's bold sermon. His exposure of bad habits coincided with a season where Donnie was expected to take on greater leadership responsibilities due to Jimmy Swaggart's advancing age. Many believed Donnie was being positioned to assume a more central role in the ministry's operation. But Gabriel's words seemed to undermine that transition. By calling attention to Donnie's flaws, he may have weakened Donnie's credibility at the very moment he was supposed to be stepping up. Think about it, said one church member in an online discussion. Donnie was about to become the primary pulpit voice. If Gabriel didn't act, he might have been left behind. Exposing Donnie was his way of creating doubt in people's minds and proving he's the better option for the future. This theory quickly gained traction. To many, Gabriel's move looked less like a random sermon and more like a carefully calculated strategy to shift power in his favor. The congregation splits. At Family Worship Center, the division became impossible to ignore. Older members who had grown up under Jimmy Swaggart's fiery preaching and Donnie's passionate follow-ups stood firmly with Donnie. They saw him as authentic, even if flawed, and resented what they viewed as Gabriel's betrayal. "You don't tear down your father to lift yourself up," one longtime member said. "Donnie may not be perfect, but he's real. Gabriel is polished, but I don't trust his motives." Meanwhile, younger members and Crossfire supporters sided with Gabriel. They argued that holiness mattered more than family loyalty. To them, Gabriel represented a new era of accountability and transparency. If Donnie has bad habits, they need to be addressed, one supporter said. The pulpit is too important to be compromised. The split grew deeper as each man continued preaching separately, with subtle references that seemed aimed at one another. What was once a united ministry began to look like two competing factions under the same roof. Online reactions, fuel to the fire. The Swaggart controversy spilled far beyond the church walls. On YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, clips of Gabriel's sermon went viral. Edited snippets highlighting his exposure of hidden sins circulated widely, sparking heated debates in the comments sections. Gabriel is doing what no one else has the courage to do. "This is disgusting. You don't expose your own father for views." Donnie is old school, but he's the real deal. Gabriel is a politician in the pulpit. Mark my words, Gabriel is positioning himself as the next leader. The debate grew so intense that Christian bloggers and independent news outlets began covering it. Headlines such as "Power Struggle at the Swaggart Ministry" and "Father versus Sin Rivalry at Family Worship Center" only added fuel to the fire. For the first time in decades, the Swaggart name was trending not for revival services or music broadcasts, but for internal family conflict. Donnie's emotional burden. Those close to Donnie describe him as deeply hurt but unwilling to retaliate. Unlike Gabriel, who seemed confident and bold, Donnie appeared weary. In several of his sermons following Gabriel's remarks, he spoke of betrayal, forgiveness, and the importance of staying faithful even when misunderstood. "I've learned," Donnie said in one service, "that sometimes the hardest battles are not with the devil, but with those closest to you." The congregation sat in silence, knowing exactly what he was referring to. This emotional vulnerability drew sympathy. To many, Donnie now appeared as a father under attack by his own son, a preacher carrying both the burden of ministry and the heartbreak of family betrayal. Yet others argued that his words were evasive, that instead of addressing his alleged bad habits directly, Donnie was playing the victim. For them, Gabriel's accusations still carried weight, and Donnie's silence seemed like confirmation. Gabriel's confidence grows. Far from backing down, Gabriel appeared more confident in the weeks following the controversy. His sermons became sharper, his delivery stronger, and his presence more visible on Sun Life Broadcasting Network. Supporters pointed to this as proof that God was elevating him. Critics, however, saw it as further evidence of ambition. "He smells blood," one commenter wrote online. "He thinks this is his moment to take over." Indeed, the more Donnie seemed wounded, the stronger Gabriel appeared.